Right, so it is day 118 of my attempt to plant a tree every single day. So let's get on with it. So I've planted a couple of species of Syzygium already this season, and I've had very sort of mixed results with that. So the Syzygium guineensis did sulk for a long time, and they do finally seem to be coming up quite well, whereas the Syzygium jambos sulked, and that seems to be terminal. So we're going to be trying Syzygium cumini today, which is the Java plum. So as you might guess from that name, that is not native. It is naturalized in parts of Africa, so I think in Uganda and possibly a couple of other points in East Africa it's become naturalized. I don't think that's too much of a risk here because it does require quite a lot of rainfall, and we're just at the low end of the sort of rainfall it can tolerate. And because we're a long way from a river, I don't think there's too much risk of this escaping and becoming feral. But it is a sort of plum-shaped fruit when it's ripe. It is a plum-coloured fruit. It makes very good preserves. It's not the most exciting fruit to eat fresh. It's a little bit astringent, and it doesn't have a very prominent flavour of its own when you eat it fresh. I do find when it's cooked, you notice the sort of distinct flavour of it a lot better, and it's much more pleasant than eating it out of the hand, although it can be very refreshing out of the hand. So we're putting it in an area that's quite sheltered, so we have around the side sort of mango trees, avocado trees, a large Bridelia. There will actually one day be, just due north of it, a little jackfruit tree. That is one of the ones I planted earlier in the season, that is right under the Bridelia, which is a type of straight-thorned acacia. But directly above this one there are no trees. We do have a few saplings of yellow ipe, which is one of the Handoranthus, and we do have a few guavas around this area, but this should outgrow them quite quickly and form a nice solid canopy above those, so those will grow a lot straighter and a lot truer, and especially because the yellow ipe, mostly it's going to be useful as a pole, so it growing nice and straight is good because then I can coppice it and it will be springing back up straight when that happens. And this is probably ideal for this species because it is quite a sun-loving plant. It doesn't like to dry out when it's young. It can tolerate a dry season of sort of 6 to 7 months quite merrily once it's established. But when it's young, it doesn't want to dry out. So having the shelter from the wind around the sides is really good, but it really does like that sun for a little bit of a boost of growth because it's quite an energetic tree. To give it a little bit of extra shelter from the wind and keep it from drying out, we're going to be putting a Dracaena fragrans immediately to the southeast of it, which is going to sort of block the one little gap that we do have, because there's only a few little spindly saplings in between it and the southeast, which is where the wind comes from. There are a few larger trees a bit further away, which should slow that, so it shouldn't be too intense. So this little tiny Dracaena fragrans should be just enough to cool the soil, keep it from drying out too much, as the wind does come through relatively lightly here. And then we're going to be putting, as the rest of its ground cover, 2 sort of toxic barrier plants, both of which should be pretty tolerant once the shade comes up, although one more than the other. So one of them is going to be the shell ginger, which is related to the galangal. This is Alpinia zerembet, and I do think sometimes it's used as a galangal, but more commonly the leaves are used as a tea and as a sort of wrapping for rice to give it a nice aromatic flavour. It's also very ornamental with fantastic flowers, which should be pretty good for the beehive, which is very close by, which will also probably appreciate the Syzygium, which does flower very vigorously. And then we're going to be putting in one of the calincos. So this is Calinco delegoensis. That's a misnomer. Delegoa is in Mozambique, and this is actually a Madagascan species. It's sometimes called the mother of millions because any piece that drops off it will usually grow, and you get a whole lot of them in one area. So it should fill out quite well and cover the bare soil before too many more weeds move in. Especially at this time of year, not many weeds will be germinating, but this should be rooting very nicely, and it should fill up that space and protect it for when everything does start growing again. Right, so that should be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, thank you for watching this far anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow when I will be planting something different. I don't know what yet, but we can find out together. So I generally try to avoid playing favourites. There is a strong argument to be made that this is one of my favourite frogs. So this is Phrynobatrachus, and it's probably Phrynobatrachus natalensis. We do sometimes get my Barbiensis here as well. But the reason they're my favourite frog isn't because they have wonderful tadpoles, which look like fish and take a very long time to mature into a frog that seems to be slightly smaller than the mature tadpole itself. Nor is it that they have a wonderful, soft version of the guttural toad's call, which sounds like a soft a long way into winter. No, it's much simpler than that. It's that they reliably sit on my lily pads.